Hi there, Glenn here from Digital Photography Courses. So what I want to do today is this is a session about how to set up your MSN using different types of heads. So today what I want to do is I'm going to be concentrating on a three-way head. The reason I've chosen this as the first session, I will also do sessions on ball heads and various other options as well, but I believe that most people start off with a three-way head. So why is it called a three-way head? Well, if we have a look, what we can do is we can rotate this. It's sometimes called a pan and tilt head. So this is pan. So this allows me to go 180 degrees this way. And then we have a tilt. This is tilt. And this one's actually a three-way head. So what we can also do is we can flip. And the purpose of the flip, there we go, is if you want to have your camera on its side. So there we go. So if you've got your camera this way. Now I actually don't recommend this for if you're using your MSN. The reason is because what it's going to do is it's going to extend out really wide, and that's a lot of sort of weight and pressure all on one side of the tripod. So I wouldn't actually recommend using it with the MSN in that configuration. So let me get this straight again. There we go. And what we would do is if you we'd obviously mount your MSN onto here. Now, when you get the MSN, the first thing you tend to think of is mounting it using this screw here. And which is perfectly understandable, because if you look at your tripod head, your tripod plate or something, then what's going to happen is you've got a 1/4" screw which matches nicely in that screw thread there. And so the first thing you're going to think of is you're going to screw it onto there. And that is absolutely fine. You can do that, and a lot of people do that. I do sometimes. There we go. Make sure that's nice and tight. Okay. But what a lot of people don't realise is you can also mount it here at the back. Now this hole, of course, is what actually happens is if you thought about doing that and you try to fit this to here, it's not going to fit because the hole is too big. In your kit, you will have one of these, a little adapter. And this is a 3/8 to 1/4 adapter. And what you might want to do is screw this into the bottom, and that allows you to mount on the flat side of the MSN. But what I recommend that you do is do not screw this into here. The reason is because this hole is quite deep, and this will go right the way inside. So much so that that little screw will do one of two things. Either it won't make contact at all, in which case it won't screw on, or it will just screw on with maybe one or sort of half a thread or one thread, and that's not really secure and tight enough. And the last thing you want is everything falling to the ground. So what I suggest you do instead is screw this onto this. And you'll notice that there is a slight sort of screw thready hole thing. Yeah. And the trick is I wouldn't have that down. I would have that facing up. Because if it's facing up, just screw this on. There we go. That's it. Now what it just means is you can come along here with a screwdriver and you can just give that a little extra turn there. There we go. And just make sure that that is lovely and snug. Because the last thing we want is obviously your MSN falling off your head. Okay? And we'll look at that in a second. So just for now, we're going to use the 1/4" mounting on here, and we're going to mount this onto our tripod. And obviously what we need to do is we need to make sure that this line through here is pointing at either the north or south celestial pole. And at the moment we've just come across the first problem with this type of tripod or this type of head. The most I can get is this angle here. I can get down quite easily, but I can't get it any higher. And that would be a problem for me because where we are, we're at 52 degrees latitude and the North Star is kind of up that way, and I cannot reach that. Not a problem. All we do is we remove the tripod plate, flip it 180 degrees. Okay, we just flipped it over and then remount it so it's facing the opposite way. Now to do this, we're going to have to turn the whole rig round, but you can see that now I have a full range of movement. Okay. Now what I can do is I can go out, what I like to do is sort of go out before it gets dark and get a rough alignment. So what I can do is I can use a compass app, and with the compass app I can just kind of get this facing north, and I could use a real compass or I could use a compass app on my phone. And also what is quite nice is actually here, just here on the Manfrottos, it does actually have a scale. And so what I can actually do is I can use that scale and I can line this to 52 degrees in my case. So there we go. So now we're pointing more or less in the right direction for Polaris, and I can rotate this and I'm looking you know, sort of north as well. So that's great. So once Polaris comes out and we can see the stars, we can pop on the laser finder. There we go. And then of course what you would do is you get down nice and low, laser finder switched on, and you would fine tune these left and right a bit and up and down. So left and right, get that one right first. It's a good idea to get one right first of all, and then up and down a bit. There we go, until you're lined up with Polaris. And that pretty much is it. So that covers how to use it in that configuration. Let's have a look at the second configuration. So we'll just take the laser off and we'll just take the mounting off. Now all I've done here for speed is I'll take this one off. There we go. There we are. And I actually have a second head just to save a bit of time, and we're going to screw this into the base of the MSN. There we go. Making sure of course it's on nice and tight. And let's get this all back together so you see what we're doing. Here we go. And now of course one thing you just want to make sure that you have is you want to make sure that when you mount this, that you have your controls at the top, because you don't want the controls down here, you won't be able to see what you're doing. So you want to make sure you have your controls at the top. There we go. And now we can mount it, and you can see that we have a good range of movement here. And again, we can move it this way and then up and down to give our alignment. Now, personally, for me, I prefer this way. I just think that when you stack all this stuff on top of each other, it gets a bit like a Christmas tree. And I just think personally, the lower the centre of gravity is, then the better things are. So I personally like to do it this way. It also makes it quite easy, as you can see the controls. There's a nice height for me. So that's kind of cool. And then of course what we'd do is we'd get this lined up just as we did before. So that's, there we go. Get this lined up using the laser pointer or whatever it is that you use if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, or your polar scope. So we'd obviously move this around, get everything lined up. I like to take this off so it doesn't get damaged. Also put that somewhere warm, because if it gets cold it sometimes stops working. So here's my pointing north, here's my sort of rotation, my target. Quite often my target this time of year is going to be something like Orion, which is obviously looking over, it's sort of in the southern skies, high in the southern sky. So if I grab my camera, pop that on, there we go, and now I can get my target over here. Make sure everything is locked off. The last thing you want is, as you're kind of rotating and everything's rotating, the last thing you want is kind of something gradually dripping down. So, and then of course we switch the MSN on, making sure that you're in the right location for yourselves, north or south, making sure that if we're just tracking the stars, we've got the star selected, and there we go, we can fire away. Now, I found that the rule I kind of work to is using the MSN, I can get in the region of 10 to 12 times the exposure that I would get maybe using the 500 rule. So if using, I've got a 20mm lens on here, with a 20mm lens using the 500 rule I can get around about 20 seconds. So with the MSN on there I can take that and times it by about 10. So 20 seconds becomes 200 seconds, 180 seconds is 3 minutes. So I can usually get exposures in the region of 3 to 4 minutes using this system, okay, which is pretty good. Now obviously the MSN really is intended for wide angle lenses and maybe short telephotos, so I do know that some people use 100, 135. I know the Rokinon 135 is a popular lens, and with that lens, so if we work on 100 into 500 goes 5 seconds, and so if we go 10 times that gives us 50 seconds. So I would say with a 100mm lens thereabout, you should be able to get around about 50 seconds to 1 minute. I've actually managed to get around about 90 seconds using a 100mm lens, a 105 lens. But you know, I would err on the side of caution and maybe try and go for a minute. But that's pretty good. If you do plenty of 1 minute exposures and you can stack them, then you're going to hopefully get really good results. So hopefully guys that helps you. Which method do you choose? If you've got a favoured method, then you know, let me know. And what I'll do later is I'll come back and we'll do another little one talking about how to use a ball head for the same sort of configuration. Okay, thank you for your time.